Macmillan Audio presents Subtract, the Untapped Science of Less by Leidy Klotz, narrated for you by Robert Petkoff, with an introduction and takeaways from the author.
Introduction. The Other Kind of Change. 1. When my family visited San Francisco, the Embarcadero waterfront was at the top of our to-do list. We saw the historic piers and the ferry building. We strolled along a palm tree-lined promenade. We looked for wild parrots in a lush park. A balloon artist made a monkey for my son, Ezra, who toddled safely to show it to the harbor seals. Lots of other people seemed to be doing things they'd always remember. It had taken an earthquake to make this unforgettable place. Well, an earthquake with some help from a woman named Sue. Before the Embarcadero was a must-see destination, it was a double-decker concrete highway. Like so many other city-crossing highways in the United States, the Embarcadero Freeway was built after World War II, made possible by federal support for highways to move the military and serve the growing number of automobiles. For decades after it was built, the Embarcadero Freeway had stretched more than a mile along San Francisco's eastern waterfront, blocking precious views and access to the bay. Elsewhere in the city, community organizers, who were initially downplayed as little housewives by pro-highway groups, had stopped plans for highways that would have done more harm than good to the city. But the freeway along the Embarcadero was serving tens of thousands of vehicles per day. It was one thing to determine that a new highway was unnecessary. It was another to ask whether it might be a good idea to remove a freeway that had already been built. Fortunately, San Francisco had Sue Bierman. After growing up in Nebraska, Sue Bierman had moved to San Francisco in the 1950s, bringing with her more formal training in music than in city planning. But Bierman was incredibly bright and driven, a high school valedictorian and incessant reader. She had learned how to get things done in San Francisco as a community organizing housewife. Based on her success in that role, she earned an official appointment in 1976 to the city's planning commission. Bierman was meticulous in her public service. Her planning commission studied the Embarcadero Freeway using all sorts of metrics: how much traffic it carried, how many customers it brought to city businesses, how the freeway affected property values, and how it affected quality of life in the neighborhoods it connected and in the neighborhoods it crossed. The commission also considered options for how they might transform the existing freeway. What were the costs and benefits of turning the double-decker freeway into a subsurface tunnel? Of extending the freeway so that it connected to the Golden Gate Bridge? Of leaving well enough alone and focusing on other parts of the city? It took all that analysis and more over nearly a decade for Bierman's commission to finally, in 1985, offer their plan for the Embarcadero Freeway. Get rid of it. Businesses near the freeway opposed the plan, worrying that reduced automobile traffic would mean fewer customers. More surprisingly, in retrospect at least, businesses weren't alone in resisting. When San Franciscans voted on the proposal to remove the freeway, it wasn't even close. For every voter in favor of removing the freeway, there were at least 2 who wanted to keep it. Whether for fear of traffic, fear of lost business, or simply fear of change, voters rejected removal. The people had spoken. Sue Bierman and her commission moved on to other projects. The Embarcadero Freeway might still be blocking San Francisco's waterfront if not for the Loma Prieta earthquake, which struck on October 17, 1989. As a sports-obsessed middle schooler tuning in expecting to see the 3rd game of baseball's World Series, I experienced the earthquake as millions of others did. First a blank screen, then panicked announcers broadcasting from San Francisco's Candlestick Park, and then collapsed highways and a burning city, all on live television. The Loma Prieta earthquake killed more than 60 people and injured thousands. A concrete slab as big as a basketball court fell from the upper to the lower deck of the Bay Bridge. Fires swept through the Marina District just a few blocks north of the Embarcadero. People sat stranded outside next to whatever they could gather before evacuating their homes. The earthquake caused about $6 billion in property damage alone. At the time, it was the most expensive earthquake in the history of the United States. The earthquake changed the calculus for
Sample complete. Ready to continue?